going to start the episode
Okay.
right now.
Right.
So there's no intro.
No intro. We're going to have an intro eventually because
We'll have an intro.
we'll have
eventually.
a name.
All right. Sounds good. All right. So you got a couple topics.
I do. I got a couple topics for you. So I will not ask you the blanket, where do you think the market's going? What I'm going to ask you is, when you're talking to your clients, your past clients, people that you've done transactions before, let's say past that 4 or 5 year mark that have bought from you previously, and they come to you and they say, James, the rates are kind of stabilizing around this number. We have been looking to move up. Is it a good time for us to do that? What are some of the points you're telling these people as you're giving them that information of where, because people are always asking you in terms of being a prognosticator,
sure,
or being a genie who can tell them, what's going on. What are you telling those people right now?
So, I mean, almost any situation, for whether it's now or in the past, I always want to figure out what their motivation is.
Right.
So as an agent, especially with selling, but also buying's pretty clear. You want to buy a house, you want to have somewhere to live.
Right.
That's pretty basic. But I want to know the motivation, because I'll tell my clients straight up, if I don't think that they should make a move, I'll tell them. Because I think being honest with your client from the start, or I'll sometimes tell them, hey, if you have the means, you have your home right there, you bought it 7 years ago, you're locked in at a 3% interest rate. If you can buy another home, if your goal is to move up or whatever, and you can keep that home, even though I'm not getting a sale out of you selling it,
rent it out.
Keep it and rent it out if you have the means, or maybe refi it, because if you've got a ton of equity and a super low interest rate, don't sell. In my opinion, if you have the means, that is, to rent that out, use that income, and then buy another home, I always tell them to do that. So it's situational, right? It just really depends on what their goal is and, what they're looking to accomplish.
And then off of that, when you're seeing people now, because that's the number one topic I see when people are creating content in terms of realtors. It's where do you see this? Is the market going to crash? And then they'll do a video on, do they think it is or not?
Yes. Yeah.
Where do you think the positives and negatives are from those people who are creating that content, pushing it out? Where do you think that are they helping out? Are they kind of hurting what's going on?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think for agents or lenders to ever speak in these absolute terms, I don't think is a good thing, because no one knows for sure. So when people are like, hey, you need to buy a house right now because it's going to go up in the future, I think you have to avoid that type of language. Now, I think the positive way, or the better way to do it, to where you can still give your prediction, but without talking in absolutes, is to kind of say, hey, based on the numbers, this is what I think could happen in the next 6 months, and look for these key indicators. If the rates stay where they're at now and the inventory stays where it's at now, this is probably what's going to happen. Or if rates go up, this is probably what's going to happen. Giving people a couple different scenarios and key indicators to keep an eye on for just your average consumer that might not know what to look for.
Yeah. See, that's the thing, is I don't even do that. We're doing our lead generation stuff daily. Mm-hmm. So all I look at is, what are sellers saying?
Yeah.
Because again,
you're seeing it from a different perspective, right?
Yeah. So I'm seeing our lead gen daily. We're maxed out at 2,000 texts a day, and we're in, 30 to 35 different markets, probably about 10 different states. So when people come to me and they're like, hey, what do you think we're going to be looking at this summer? Or what are we looking at in 6 to 12 months? Or what does that look like? I'm just going to tell them hey, listen, I don't know where we're going to be, but I can tell you what the sellers, specifically the ones that we target, which are people that have owned their home more than 5 years, have at least 60% equity, are in a good spot. I can tell you what those people are saying.
Sure.
Because I'm seeing it daily.
Yeah.
I don't go on.
And what are you seeing?
A lot of it, honestly, it depends on the area. It depends on, SoCal is just a mixed bag, man.
Sure.
And if you're talking about the Inland Empire, you're talking about a price point right now that hovers around 650, something like that.
Average.
Yeah, the 650 range, you're going to get people that are probably telling you, yeah, you know, I'd sell at 725.
Sure.
Which still is a good starting point. I will tell you this.
To at least have the conversation.
Have the conversation. Last year, those same people were telling us 775, 850, like crazy numbers. Because again, like you have to understand that as a consumer that's not in real estate every day, all they're looking at is the TV.
Yeah.
Right. So they're just seeing that, you know, people are getting 100% over asking. They're getting consent. They're getting all this stuff. There's 60 offers on everything. So they're thinking like, okay, well, I'm there. Well, now those same people are seeing
different. The headlines have changed, right?
Even as you as a homeowner, I guarantee you that you and your wife go sometimes on Zillow and be like, what are things selling for around here? Right.
Yeah. Or, I mean, I'll go on the MLS, but
what is the comp? What just sold around here? Because you're comparing. And then the other thing too, you're always going to do is like, hey, my house is better than Tim's.
Of course.
You know, I have a better, you know, whatever. So what I'm seeing now is it's very, I'll tell you this, that it's 100 times easier to talk with sellers out of California. Southern California sellers are so abrasive because of how much marketing is being done right now, that it's really hard to have conversations.
Sure.
Out of state, it's not like that. Like we ran a campaign in Columbus, Ohio last week, and we had like 25 responses in the first day of just nice people. I'd probably take an offer at 225. If you don't have that, you know, I'll probably just keep it.
Yeah.
Rather than the SoCal thing is like, you know, you get into some areas like LA and Orange County where I'm at. You're looking at people that like their property's worth 3 million and they're like, yeah, I'll take 7.
Yeah. And there's no motivation.
There's no motivation to move. They're just like, so what, again,
plus the oversaturation of marketing there versus Columbus is probably a whole different thing, right?
Yeah. It's way, way different in terms of what they're seeing on a day-to-day basis.
Now let me ask you that. Is the real estate market, when it comes to agent wise, saturated? I mean, obviously we hear about how many agents have their license, but how many are also really out there hitting the streets? You know, I mean,
I would say the number, whatever you think the number is, cut it in half, because it's not that. I mean,
even with that being said, though, California is probably hit harder than any other
by
state
realtors
as far as marketing, right?
No, I would say
prospecting,
not even by marketing, by realtors reinvesting their money in terms of, I made $5,000 on this commission. California realtors will take $1,000 or $1,500 of that,
a big chunk,
and reinvest it and just be like, I'm going to flood this area with flyers or postcards or whatever they think their marketing, you know, situation should be. They'll reinvest it. Other areas, it's like they don't do that. Like Vegas, I have a ton of clients in Vegas and Phoenix and the Scottsdale area. Besides your, you know, your photos, your really good video, they're not doing the mass marketing that SoCal is doing. So it's like, it's such, and that's why personally, I love working in different markets with different clients, because I have so much more of information to pull off of, because I can tell people, like, I know that people think that if you're a realtor, you're making money. There was a month last month where Keller Williams has 180,000 licensed realtors nationwide. And they said there was a month last year, I believe it was November of last year, 130,000 of those 180,000 made $0.
Yeah, that's wild.
Okay, so there's
no other industry like that.
None. You can't just go to like a plumber and be like, hey, did you make any money this month?
Yeah.
Like I saw a funny video the other day and someone was like,
so it seemed like the light got like darker.
Oh yeah. It was just like zoning in.
Yeah.
I saw it was a funny video, and he's a real estate investor. He's like, dude, we need plumbers. We don't need more realtors.
Yeah.
Like trade people make tons of money now because people don't go into trade. There's such that
welders.
Yeah,
I tell people all the time, young people, I'm like, if you don't know what to do, especially dudes,
learn a trade.
Learn a trade, dude. Electrician, welder, like they make some good money. You know, you can make 120 grand just as a welder right out the gate. Like if you know what you're doing. And you can work your way up from there.
Yeah, people like hate on construction and all that. Like two of my best friends, they work for Hensel Phelps, who's a huge contractor. Yeah. They've moved up. They're now managers, and they like there's guys there that are making $1 million.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Doing that stuff. And again, like I think we're just in that age where the entrepreneurial, like the hustle mindset is so put out there and so put on people that people are like, I don't want to do normal jobs anymore.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's most prevalent in real estate.
Yeah.
Where you see that. And so that's why
real estate attracts that type of person, right? They want their own schedule. They don't want a boss. They want, they want the ability to make a lot of money without doing a lot of work. But there's no real estate agent that's making a lot of money that isn't working hard.
No, none.
Unless you have been in the game for a long time
and worked doing it right. You know what I mean? Like none that's doing it right.
It is very hard. I mean, I've known so many in the last 10 years. I've known so many top producing agents, and you have too. Yeah. And it is not easy to make a lot of money in real estate. Like it is simple in a way. Like it's simple to just say, hey, you got to if you just prospect, have a lot of conversations, right, you're going to make a lot of money. And it sounds easy. And it's simple. Like it is true. Like, hey, have some conversations, 30 contacts a day, do your follow-up, and, you make a lot of money. And that is true, but do it. Go do it now and see how easy it is.
It's also, there's so many different milestones in real estate that you hit that your business acumen and your business mind changes.
Mm-hmm.
Like
that is true.
Like James at 22, if you're going to tell James like, hey, by the way, you're going to close a couple homes a month and you're going to be making 10 to 15 grand. And 22-year-old James would have been like, what? That doesn't know. That's not happening.
Yeah.
Now it's like, that's a bad month.
Yeah.
So I think your framing of where you want to be, I'm starting to now in the past couple of years, I've started to work everything back forward. Like, if I want, like me, my goal for 2023 and 2024 was to get to 100K a month as passive as I can get. Now, again, we always have to have our hands and stuff because of the what we've chosen to do.
Yeah.
But I want to get as many things on that passive side as possible. Now,
and that requires systems, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And so, but if you would have told me when I got
systems and help.
Yeah.
You're not doing it on your own.
You have to have the right people.
Yeah.
And so, but if you would have told me, 7-8 years ago when I first got into title, hey, you make 10 grand a month, I would have been like,
you've been stoked.
I would have been stoked. Yeah. So I think, like you said, realtors are there. There's few and far between that know not only what it takes, but do it. And then there's even fewer like yourself, the Christians of the world, the bigger agents, the Stites team, like there's fewer agents that get to the point where how do I completely remove myself out of the day-to-day operations and I'm handling past clients, just listings. Like there's even fewer to get to that point.
Very few.
And when you get to that point, there's even more problems.
Yeah.
Because then it's like, I got to hire and fire people.
Yes.
I mean,
well, and I've always been kind of, I don't want to say a hater, but like, I've never chose to go the big team route, right? Like we've talked about this before, just because.
Yes, we've talked about this many times.
But I've seen it too many times where people build big teams and
it's more headache.
It's a headache.
Yeah.
And they don't really even make more money because by the time they pay for the extra assistance they need, they pay for more marketing because they need more leads to feed
basically
the
making what you would have made if you would have done some more deals.
Yes. So it's like you got all this headache. You create this illusion that you're out of the business, but you're still having to handle phone calls. You're still you're still in it. And when things aren't going right, you've got to jump in and save the deal. Like I still deal with that now, and I only have one agent. I have to jump in and tell my agent, hey, this is what we got to do to save this thing, you know?
Yeah.
So even when you have agents that are in your business, unless they're a rock star agent, you're going to have to jump in and save the deal or coach them up, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But the illusion of, hey, just build a team and then you can step away and it's just going to run. It just doesn't work that. But this isn't a McDonald's franchise, right? Like,
that's why I hire VAs.
Yeah.
I'm up to.
Yeah, but even VAs, they can't.
Oh, you got to train them for sure.
I mean, for you, it works great, right? Because you're not out showing clients homes and stuff. Like, I can't. To go show homes.
I'm talking about the systemization.
Sure, no, I get it. Yeah.
But even that, but like you just said, I've had to hire and fire 10 to 15 VAs.
Yeah.
And I have to physically train them first. But my VA last year booked 2,100 appointments for me.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
How
do you even have that many appointments?
If she tried to leave me, I would fly to the
And these are phone appointments, right?
Phone appointments with realtors.
Yeah.
If she tried to leave me, I'd fly to the Philippines and I'd marry her on the spot.
Have you seen her though?
Yes. We do Zoom calls all the time.
I mean,
I don't care.
I feel like this is.
She is.
What I'm hearing is you're in love. That's what I'm hearing.
Yes, with my VA.
Look.
But again, like I just think
my wife's Filipino, so it was working out for me.
You're sitting pretty. But I mean, again, like this is what I talked about. I did a podcast with Jackie a couple weeks ago, and I told him, I was like,
tell Jackie, come to Real. Come to Real.
Oh yeah, I forgot. I was supposed to be pitching on for James.
Let's at least have the conversation.
But same thing I talked about with her was like, there's certain things especially in real estate, up to a point that you can literally automate.
Sure.
There's a lot of stuff you can do, but we still are the one industry that there has to be at least one face-to-face conversation that happens. Yes. So I think,
especially on the listing side, it's a little easier, right? Because I've had clients where I've met them one time and that was it, right? But we sat down at the kitchen table, listed the home. They're moving out to Texas, and maybe I see them one more time before closing to say, thank you and congratulations. But buyer's a little different, right?
Yeah.
Because you've got showing them multiple homes, then you've got home inspections, then you got appraisal, which, depending on if you go to that or not, but you're probably going to see the client a lot more throughout a buyer's transaction than you would sellers.
Like you were saying too, there's so many, again, those levels that we were talking about with the agents.
Mm-hmm.
When you get to that mega, like the big time agent, again, like the big teams out here, like you can eventually get to the point where you just turn over your contact list once a year and listings will fall out. If you want
working it correctly.
If you want
and it depends how big your database is too.
It's the same thing with lenders, like our guy Decker.
Yeah.
Decker can literally go inside of a spreadsheet of clients that he's worked with before and update them and tell them where the rates are at and
pull out the deal,
shake out of there.
Yeah.
Like a Christmas
I mean, it's a little harder now, right? Because the rates have gone up.
But I'm saying there's clients in there just because he's had established business and those clients trust him.
Pull a HELOC loan out of there or something.
So it's like, I think all of us want to get to that point to where it's like, there's not as much pressure on a day-to-day basis. Like, where am I getting my next dollar from? So I think that's the biggest gap that you're talking about, where there's an agent who's starting off that's like, I don't know what the hell's going on.
Yeah.
And, I'm trying to figure it out. To that, there's a whole lot of people in between. And that's where your middle tier agents are usually at.
Yeah.
And that's where, that you can work out of that. You can work leads, like you said, go, door knocking and stuff like that. But
people don't want to do that. And I think, there are agents that do it, right? I've done it. Me and my team were door knocking last week, had some great conversations.
Yeah.
But most agents don't want to pick up the phone and they don't want to door knock, right? Like, and we as an industry got kind of spoiled in 2021
when everything
sold, everything was on fire, rates were low, so you had a lot of buyer demand. sellers were getting top dollar. Like everything was, don't get me wrong, there was difficult times through that, because especially from the buyer's perspective, right? So if you're a buyer's agent and you're taking out a client and they put an offer and there's 30 other offers, that's not easy, right? Like on every home.
Well, that's why I always tell people, like, you're let's take a military aspect. Your basic training is you working buyers.
Sure.
That's, you break your bones doing that. You want to transition to listing only. Like,
yes,
that's the goal.
But yes, but listings require a different skill set, a higher skill set.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying, is like you have to get your teeth knocked in a bunch as a buyer's agent. That's why, again, and I have a ton of clients that are Mike Ferry guys and a ton of guys that are Tom Ferry guys.
Yeah.
And anyone that comes to me and they're like, hey, like, what should I do? I always tell them to go to Mike first. Or do that. I'm not
that system.
Mike, that system.
Yes.
Because getting your teeth kicked in and getting people on the phone to tell you to fuck off, getting people to tell you you're the worst scum of the earth, like, why are you calling? Like, you have to get that out of your system so that you can build the callus needed to transition to dealing with sellers all day.
Yeah, but yes, I agree. But you can get that being a buyer's agent calling Zillow leads that aren't ready, right?
You can get that. I'm just saying the phone aspect of it.
The phone aspect.
Because Tom's going to tell you to post 17 times a day and create an online presence and all that, which is great. But I think you have to have an established business before you do that.
Yes, but there is also another aspect of the difference between buyer's agent and a listing agent, in the sense that a listing agent has to sit down with someone, has to basically bring them to reality of what their home's actually worth. They have to sit there and say, hey, look, this is how much you're going to end up paying.
Listen, your house kind of looks like shit.
Yeah, I mean,
sorry.
But with a buyer, you don't have to sit there and say, hey, at the end of this whole thing, you're going to have to pay 40 grand. With a seller, you got to do that.
Why? Do you think it's actually like, I feel like the conversation are actually harder with buyers.
No, you're smoking crack.
Dude, are you telling me that you're dealing with a buyer that has put in 15 different offers, they've gotten rejected 15 times, rather than telling a seller like, hey, your garage sucks, we have to sell this at 500 or whatever the case may be?
Yes, maybe physically and time spent is harder with the buyers, but with the buyers.
Hey, by the way, we just submitted. You got denied again.
But there's a reason why most people start as a buyer's agent, because it mentally is easier, because all you really, I was just about to say all you really do is go around and open doors. That's not necessarily true. But
talking about working at McDonald's,
you can meet a buyer. Hey, nice to meet you. Let's go start looking at homes. It's exciting. The mental aspect of dealing with the buyer versus the mental aspect of dealing with the seller, where you've got to sit down and say, hey, like I said, your home's not worth what you thought it was. The market shifted. Here's the net sheet. They're looking at the net sheet. Well, why am I paying 40 grand? Why am I paying the buyer's agent? Like, there's a lot of questions and objections that need to be handled when you're dealing with a seller versus a buyer who's like, oh, I love this house, let's write an offer.
Maybe I don't deal with rejection very well. I don't like.
You shouldn't be a listing agent.
I don't like people telling me no. So if I was just constantly putting in offers and it was like every time, like, hey, sorry, there's 50 other people better than you.
That is tough.
That's like a girl being like, hey, I was gonna go out with you, but there's 10 other guys that were just better looking than you.
Well, I'm sure
that could never happen. To me.
Could never happen to these guys, right?
It's just
but the buyers thing with the 50 offers and all that, I mean, that's market. That's dictated by the market. I mean, there's markets where, things are not selling, and it's great to be a buyer's agent because you've got the pick of the litter. Now, it hasn't been recently, but that kind of brings us to how weird this market is.
Yeah.
Even as opposed to any other market in the last 10 years, because there's always the ebbs and flows of the market, but this market is really weird because there's not a lot of inventory, right? Homes are still high priced, but there's still somewhat of a demand. Like there's all this weird stuff going on. So there's not enough inventory. So prices are staying high.
Right.
Buyer demand is still enough to where prices aren't going to come down because there's no inventory, and there's enough buyer demand to gobble up the inventory that is there. So like we're in this weird zone because normally rates go up. You think, okay, prices.
It's not super, super busy, but it's not.
Yes.
It's not slow.
Yes, it's not super busy in the sense that there's a ton of transactions happening. Transactions are down overall, just transactions. But prices are still high, and rates are higher than what people are used to. So you've got high rates, high prices, but no inventory. So prices are staying where they're at. If there was this flood of inventory, you would see prices start to come down.
Right.
You know, last year we saw prices come down 5, 6, 7%, 10% in some areas.
But I think that's still tough for these sellers to like grasp because of the fact that at some point in the last 12 to 16 months, they saw their neighbors go way over asking. And so they're
like a year ago. Yeah.
So their mindset has shifted to now my property is worth this much.
Well, yes and no. I think over the last 6 months, people have kind of come down to earth because the headlines have been bad, the real estate, but what's happening now is sellers just aren't selling. Like they're just like, I'll just stay where I'm at. Like the only people that are moving are people that have to move right now because they're like, well, I got a great deal on my house 4 years ago. I have a 3% interest rate. Why am I going to move? Even if they don't love their house, they're going to say, well, if I sell this house, even if I take the proceeds and buy a bigger house at today's rates and prices, my payment's going to be way higher than I'm comfortable with.
Right.
And it's not worth it for me to just have a bigger house.
Yeah. And I think the bigger kind of the bigger situation we're dealing with is that fact of sellers constantly being misinformed of what is actually going on because they're getting yo-yoed by the news, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, things are great. No, things are terrible.
I think buyers are dealing with that too.
Yeah, though. Stock market's up, stock market's down.
Yeah.
And again, the thing is not necessarily everything doesn't correlate to real estate depending on the market. Now, a lot of it does, but you're seeing these like you said, we're dealing with a market that is so weird in terms of what's happening. Like you had the blip of that loan business where they were gifting down payments.
Yes.
That lasted
a second.
It lasted 10 days.
Yep.
And the government basically thought that was going to last 6 months. They allocated $300 million and they thought that was going to last 6 months. It lasted 10 days.
There's something weird about that though. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but the $300 million. So they said, oh, well, we did X amount of transactions with that money.
Right.
But if I remember right, like the $300 million made weird like math with how many transactions they said. Like the math was really funny.
Well,
when they're like,
they also
did 1,000 homes with 300 million.
Yeah, they also got
something
stuck
weird
too because there were so many. I know lenders that there were so many people that were trying to put in applications the day it got cut because they didn't anticipate the demand.
Yeah.
So again, that was a bad.
How could they not? How could they not anticipate the demand? The biggest problem for a buyer most of the time is they just don't have the down payment, right? So when you have a program that's like, hey, here's the down payment, how could they not anticipate that there's going to be?
If you're looking at the people who are coming up with these programs, they're not like day-to-day realtors. They're not
sure, of course.
They're not in this space.
But you would think someone,
if you would have told us that, we would have been like, I'll have 10 people.
I don't buy that as an excuse that they aren't real estate pros. If you are that high up in the government to make those type of decisions, you need to understand the numbers.
Super qualified.
Well, that's the problem, obviously.
Yeah, but
our country is not run by smart people.
I'm just saying that what they did is based on the data that they had, which is, hey, we need to stimulate the economy. We need to give buyers a way because that part is slow. Let's give them a way to basically have no excuse.
Sure.
Like, again, for me, if I'm asking someone like, hey, so-and-so, would you like to go out to dinner with me? And she's like, I can't, I have, I have to get my hair done or my nails done. Cool. I'll get that done for you. Cool. Can we go out to dinner now? Now you have no excuse.
Yeah.
So I think the correlation between those two is like they were looking at, we need to stimulate buyers so that we can get some of these sellers to start to ramp up, right? Because the inventory is so low. But if there was a program put in place to where the buyers didn't have any excuse or reason not to put in full price good offers, then we'll help the economy out, right? I don't think they anticipated that there's so many people that were waiting and had situations where they maybe wanted to buy, but like you said, didn't have, that.
Yeah.
But I think there's just been blips like that all over the place. Like that program was one of them. You're looking at different things that happen randomly that affect the day-to-day, our view on the market and people's view on the market.
I mean, I can speak from personal experience. That time from like July 2022 to January 2023, there was like a 6-month window where buyers were getting some good deals because the rates had gone up quick. People everyone kind of stopped buying. Homes started sitting where average days on market was maybe 20. It went to like 75.
Right.
And I have clients that personally got, 40, 50 grand off the list price during that
Sellers
time.
Making concessions.
Yes. Or got some sort of concession, maybe 50 grand off the price plus another 10 in closing costs, because sellers started to get to panic mode because they thought, okay, market's crashing, right? I better unload.
Fully eject.
Yes. So you had a lot of sellers that kind of fire sold in that time. Maybe not, when I say fire sold, they still got good money for their property. Don't get me wrong, because 2 months prior to that, or 2 years prior to that, they would have got probably 30% less, 40% less. Right. They're still making money. Don't get me wrong. But buyers then had this opportunity, and it was a short-lived window because once January hit, rates adjusted, faucet gets turned back on, market's heating up again. Now, what do you see all the time on social media? Hey, I just, got 10 offers on this home, market's heating back up. You see agents talking about how the market's hot again.
Yeah.
So these windows of opportunity, buyers have to jump on them because they're short-lived. And here's the problem moving forward. We're talking about predictions. Here's the problem with the market moving forward is just the cost. The two things. You have the institutional buyers, right? BlackRock buying up thousands and thousands of single family homes.
You said that. So I was trying to think in my mind because I said that there's two things that happen, and I mentioned the loan program. The second one was that all that news about BlackRock and they want to buy single family homes. I think
they don't just want to; they are.
I think it was like 10 billion that was allocated.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you have
the other one I was talking about.
But you also have what you didn't have maybe 10 years ago: the short-term rental market. So they're buying up, mom and pop investors, corporation investors. They're buying up single family homes as, short-term rentals. Right. So those are no longer on the market. So you've got corporations buying stuff for rentals and for short-term rentals, and the cost of building is insane. It's insane, especially in somewhere like California where there's so many rules and regulations that by the time they get the permits and they get the approval and they do the environmental testing and,
are there any endangered species in this area?
That coupled with the cost of wages, because now minimum wage is $15. So a skilled worker, what are they making? We were just talking about earlier. They're making a bunch of money. So now the people building the house, the land, everything's expensive. So by the time they build the house, they can't sell it for an affordable price. They won't make any money.
Yeah.
And I think that's why you're seeing places like Texas, Ohio starting to grow more, because there's a lot less rules and regulations there. They're allowed to build for a little bit cheaper. Yeah. And people are like, hey, I can't afford a $700,000 house, but I can afford $400,000.
You're still seeing that mass exodus we had from California. We're like, I'm getting out of here. I'm going to Texas or Nashville. Guess what you're seeing now is those people most of them are coming back.
I don't know about that, dude.
I see a lot of those people.
Some are going to come back, but I don't. A lot of people I've talked to that have left.
Have you ever lived in Texas?
No, I've never lived there.
Yeah, I have.
Well,
Again, this is not political.
This is you, though.
This is my weather.
Sure.
I hated the weather there.
But some people might want to come back, but how are they going to? You can only live in California if you make good money. Let's be honest.
Well, they were
if you have 2-3 kids, you need to make $200,000 minimum. Minimum. If you have a wife, 2-3 kids.
Now we're getting into one of those the TikTok videos that go out where they ask the girl like, what do you want your guy to make? And that's my favorite part about like the TikTok space of things going viral is you're starting to see like how people actually think, and you're like, wow, we are dumb as like a nation. There was one I saw that there was like a girl that was like, he has to make $500K. And
she might not be wrong if they have to live in California.
Well, that's true. But the guy was like, do you know that like less than 0.5% of
he's got to be 6'4"?
Yeah. Like, okay.
And make $400,000 or $500,000 a year. Yeah. It's like less than 1% of people. But But on the flip side though, where can you live in California where you have 2 people in the household plus kids plus a dog and own a home, have cars, and have a decent life? Where can you live and do that for $100,000 a year?
Hemet.
Even then.
No, it's got to be like,
it's not possible.
Well, no, I have a bunch of clients in Lancaster, Palmdale. Shout out to my real team out there. And even Lancaster, Palmdale, people are getting pushed out of Lancaster, Palmdale and having to go to Cal City.
Yeah.
Because how I tell people that this stuff works is it's basically like a migration pattern of affordability.
Yes. Yeah.
So people couldn't afford LA, but worked in LA, but they got pushed out and they went to the Valley. They go to Lancaster, Palmdale. So now they can't afford that. So now they have to go to Cal City.
Yes.
It's the same thing with
and there's growth along the way,
right?
As far as infrastructure, stores,
Yeah, because like 2 years ago, Lancaster, Palmdale was like 250, 300.
Yeah.
It's 450, 500 all day now.
Yes. And that's a good tip for real estate investors. You buy in the path of growth because no matter it starts in the city and it trickles out from there, but you can see the pattern as it goes, right?
Yeah.
Goes from the big city to the suburb to maybe a little further out suburb. Buy in that path because if you catch it.
Yeah. If you're an investor, just follow shopping malls and Amazon.
Yeah. Amazon too. Yeah.
Every time that the guys that I JV with, we look at where Amazon builds plants and areas where they're going to build like large infrastructure, because guess what? That shit's not going to be empty. There's going to be workers there. The workers have to live somewhere. And Amazon always needs a bunch of land. So they'll go to largely underdeveloped areas. Like they put in that one in Moreno Valley. That's huge. So you follow that, you can start to like pick off some of these up and coming areas as they're happening, and it's like that's what the difference is between, on the investor side is the good ones and the great ones, is the data in the time you put in to kind of look at what's going on, what's going to happen. All that stuff is way more important than, you being able to structure a deal. You're going to need that too, but your ability to kind of hunker down and try to find out where the next good area is going to be is more important than anything.
Yeah. Well, and I think it depends too on what type of investor you are, right? I mean, if you're looking to just do a flip, you're not going to be able to wait out the path of growth thing, right?
No.
If you can catch it when it's in the moment, great.
Most flips, you got to catch someone in a situation.
Yes.
A situation. Tax lien.
Hoarder house.
Yeah. Tax liens are fire sale.
Yeah.
Like
fire sale.
Fucking fire sale. Tax liens are great right now because of the
literal fire sale though.
Literal fire.
Literal house caught on fire.
But do you know you can get a list of those? Fire damaged properties.
I did not know that. Where do you go to get
the fire station, your local fire station. Yeah.
There you go. There's a tip right there for you guys.
Yeah. So you can do it 2 ways. You can go to your local fire station, and you literally don't have to pay anything. You just ask for a list of properties that they've went to.
Wow.
And they give you a list.
Is that public records? Like, what, they can't tell you no? Like, no, we can't give you that? Really?
It's like if you went down the county can give you a list of those records too. It's just a county records request.
And do you just ask them within a certain time frame, like over the last 6 months?
You can ask them for like, hey, what's your recent ones?
Sure.
I usually go like at least 6 months, because most of the time by 6 months, the reason fire damage is so good to go after is because most of the time the people are not going to haggle you as much on price because they're getting paid out by the insurance. So like, let's say you have a property that's worth 200,000, it burns down or halfway burns down. The insurance is going to pay them out, and they're already, most of the time when we're talking to people who have fire damage properties, they're already moved into their other property.
So that's interesting though, because wouldn't most people just fix the damage and move back in? I mean,
you would think so, but a lot of people, if they're going to get $200K right then and there, they'll take it, put a down payment on a better house.
Sure.
That's what we see most of the time.
Gotcha.
Or a lot of the time they move out of state. Like, we've had a couple in Vegas.
That's so weird. They're like, oh, house caught on fire, I guess I'm moving out of state. Like, that just doesn't correlate to me.
So let's say,
I'm not saying you're wrong. It's just,
let's say you're in a house and there's just a bunch of damage, and you're going to have to live in a hotel for like 2 months while it gets redone. Or why would you not just take your money, put a down payment, get somewhere, and then sell the property?
Makes sense. Especially if you were already thinking about, if you already didn't like your house or this or that, the location.
Yeah. So fire damage, literally it's a records request. And then, like I said, the tax lien stuff is huge right now, especially post-COVID.
Yeah.
Because the counties are actually, they're actually kind of required to disclose that information now.
Sure.
So
yeah. Makes sense. Do we want to talk anything else? The top drunk places? I know I'm way out of left field here, but
no. I want to get your take, because we actually talked about it during that movie podcast. My favorite movie of all time is Top Gun.
That makes a lot of sense.
Of all time.
That makes a lot of sense.
You can't tell me anything differently. As everything you want.
The volleyball scene.
As sports,
I know
as
that's
love
your
story,
favorite.
It has everything. So Maverick.
Where is this going?
No, I'm saying Top Gun Maverick got, like, it was nominated for awards.
Big hit.
I hated it. I did not like it.
Why?
And I'm curious to see if it's just,
this would have been a great topic 10 months ago, by the way.
Well, I haven't seen you. I gotta ask. I ask you about
Maverick. You hate it. I don't understand how you could hate that movie. It was shot really well. There's all the cool stuff.
I think it was honestly,
everyone loved it.
I think it was honestly because I have such a grasp on the 80s version that it just made me like, and this is what the question I'm transitioning to is like, I have such a hold on the 80s one.
Mm-hmm.
Now, 2 days ago, I rewatched the Maverick, and I was like, fuck, I kind of like this movie. Like, it's kind of good. So what I'm asking is like,
yeah, it was such a nod to the 80s movie. I didn't.
Well, that's what I hated originally. I was like,
they're just based.
Yeah, it was too on the nose. I was like, all right, we're gonna have Iceman come back, like, tragically.
His son.
Okay, his name's Roost. Like, come on.
It was too.
He's playing Great Balls of Fire.
Yeah, I got.
Come on.
And he's like 20 something.
Yeah.
Like, what kid these days knows that? But it was his dad's song.
Anyways, so my question is for you on social media, are there anything that you are like, you look at and you're like, you can't redo that, or you can't like recreate that type of content because it belongs in this type of era, or anything that you kind of hold sacred that you're like, hey, you can't redo that. It's a one-time thing. It's a one-on-one.
I don't know, man. Not really, because I feel like I'll even recreate stuff, like,
because there's so much on the real estate side on Instagram.
Everyone copies everyone.
Then I'm like,
real estate stuff.
That person just did that.
Yeah, but that's just the nature of TikTok and Instagram, especially now with Reels. Like, if something catches fire, there's going to be 100 other people that duplicate it and redo it.
You try to which side are you on? Do you try to just catch on, or you try to create your own stuff?
I try to create my own stuff, but if I see something that I think is relevant to what's going on and it's like a good point, I mean, I don't know. We're talking about two different things maybe, because if it's just some trendy, funny thing, like that goes with an audio.
Well, no, because the reason why I think they correlate is it was trendy to think that Top Gun was better than the original. I was like, there's no fucking way. This Top Gun is perfect.
Yeah.
And it caught the thing is now stuff catches fire, and now everyone thinks it should be like it's this, or it's like we talk about all the time with sports. Oh, that was the greatest game anyone's ever played.
Yeah.
That's like the new thing. Like Jimmy Butler the other day had 58 in a playoff game. Oh, that's the greatest playoff game anyone's ever had. I'm like,
people are too quick to say that.
Yeah, they're like way too quick to just like anoint that.
Yeah, I mean,
like,
I don't know.
Have you ever heard of this guy named Michael Jordan who had 63 in a game?
Yeah, I don't know. I think some of that stuff is a little corny, right? Like, and I don't know how much business you're going to get from it. If we're just talking strictly from an agent's perspective,
right?
If you're just recycling funny TikTok stuff, I mean, it's something to kind of at least kind of be out there a lot, which I like people constantly being out there and building a brand. But I think I would rather see someone take a really good take on the real estate market or really informative post and maybe recycle that into their own and make it their own and give some value rather than just a funny dance that they're, or funny audio thing or whatever.
I can't do the dance.
I can't do the dance and point thing. I think that's where the industry really fell off.
Where your line was?
That was the line.
That was the line
that shouldn't have been crossed in our industry, was like the dance and point, like to this thing.
Oh, like, yeah. When they have like a little bubble.
Like, I don't mind when you're talking and stuff pops up.
I just want to see that the creation of the video where they're like going like this, like they're by themselves and they're pointing at air.
Well, it's also super cringe when you're watching it like on mute. Like, that's the worst.
Well,
you're watching those type of videos.
That's what I don't understand. And again, like I'm just now jumping into the Reels side of things because I haven't done.
Yeah, where have you been?
I've been trying to avoid it for so long.
I thought you were supposed to be like social media guru. And you're like so. By the time you do Reels, there'll be some new things.
I know.
You know what that shows though? You're getting old.
No, I'm not. I am old.
Oh,
I'm not
okay. I thought you were gonna fight me on that.
Yeah, I'm old. No, that was the first thing I started seeing when I saw people's Reels. I'm like, everyone is in their bed going like this. Like, you have to have captions on everything.
Yeah.
And it's just
but I mean, those type of videos though don't have any words. It's just like dancing and pointing. So what's next? What are you going to caption?
Dancing and pointing. James Shelby.
Nah, man, that's the one thing you won't see me doing. I don't mind being funny. I don't mind that stuff. Funny's cool because at least you're going to make people laugh and stuff. But the dance and point, like, if you've got some knowledge to drop, because a lot of times it's like interest rates have dropped and they're like pointing to this. It's like just say it, right? Like,
well, what about you and BC do a lot of content together with your agents that are with you in Real? Like, are you training them on social media? Are you telling them to get out there? Are you helping them with that? Like, what's your what's your kind of buy-in on that?
What I think every agent should be doing right now in 2023 for content is long form YouTube, whether that's stuff about your community. I think long form YouTube and then chopping those things up into Reels. So whether we're doing something like this, which we're going to chop this up into separate Reels, shorts.
Well, you had the series that you did with the harvests and stuff, right?
And it
was like local.
We have a page that's like dedicated to just this neighborhood. But no, what I've been doing is more like Temecula Murrieta Valley channel. Yeah. And so that's actually what's been getting the most traction. And like, I have a listing appointment from it for next week.
There we go.
I have just closed a buyer, $900,000 buyer from YouTube. I have another guy just put his home on the market in Utah, coming out here in 2 weeks to buy. All this is from the YouTube channel. Now, it did take 8-9 months to start catching fire.
Yeah, but I mean,
but now that stuff is being a video I did 8 months ago is still being watched because it's popping up every time someone searches Temecula.
Yeah.
You know, so I think every agent in your local area, you need to do one long form video a week about your area, something about it.
Right.
You know, things to do there, you know, best restaurants there, best neighborhoods there, comparisons and price points. And you might be thinking, well, who gives a shit about this stuff, about my small town in Ohio? But if someone's looking to move there, YouTube is the #2 most used search engine. So when people are doing research on moving to places, trust me, they're going on YouTube and trying to figure out stuff about the town.
Yeah. And that's what I try to tell people with content too, is like the first thing that people do with most things is they Google it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like, if you yourself are treating, that's why, again, like we started off this podcast talking about was, what do you watch? You know, we were talking about topics, and it's like, I want to do things that I know I would actually watch.
Yes.
You know, and so when we're talking to agents about content and creating content, it's like, well, what do you pay attention to?
Yeah.
You know, you can usually use that, make it about yourself, and then kind of recreate it from there.
Well, let me ask you this. When you are going to go on vacation or somewhere maybe you haven't been before, like, are you jumping on YouTube to check out stuff about that spot? Or where's your go-to platform for information? Like, do you just Google stuff? Are you jumping on Instagram and searching like the geotag and seeing what's popping off there?
My best one's geotag.
Okay.
I use that a lot. But
see, that's interesting because, okay, let's say you are thinking of moving to I don't know, Scottsdale or something. You personally, I knew you were going to say something. I was trying to think of anywhere else but Scottsdale, but for some reason,
Scottsdale.
Let's say you were thinking of moving to Birmingham, Alabama. All right.
Oof.
You are probably going to jump on in the geotag, right? So that's you.
Yeah.
Like, now, if you jump on there and you keep seeing on this geotag that there's a certain person that's giving information about Birmingham over and over, and it just happens to be an agent, like, you're probably going to start following them and saying like, oh, this person knows a lot about Birmingham.
There's certain things you can also learn about what you're saying. Like, for me, if I'm going, anytime I travel anywhere for just to go, like if I go to Miami.
Yeah.
If I go to Miami, I always try to do something business oriented while I'm there. So what I'll do is I go on Instagram and I literally type in Miami realtor and I try to connect up with people. So that's another thing you can talk about, is optimizing your profile to make sure that you're searchable.
Yes.
Like, if you don't have the ability to, when someone types in Temecula realtor and you don't pop up, we got an issue. Yeah.
Or your posts don't pop up. Like, you should be hashtagging that. You should be, It should be in your bio. It should
I do that all the time.
Yeah.
You know, because I always want to try to be, even if I'm on vacation, I want to be connecting with, you know, and you do this a lot where you connect up your guy Cameron there in Utah. And it's like, you connect up with people and it's like, you never know. Some of my best clients have been people I've connected with that don't even live in California that referred me to someone else.
Yeah.
And like, so when I'm doing that stuff, I'm constantly searching and being like, all right, like, let me find out. What I will say about YouTube is, like, if I was going to a resort, like when you guys went to Azaleek,
yep.
It's like, probably I'm hopping on YouTube and I'm looking at like people's videos and stuff like that. So
and stuff like that. Yeah.
Same thing. Like I told you earlier, I'm looking at getting a third texting platform. My first thing was not to go and Google them and get on their website and talk with a salesperson. What did I do? I typed their name in and said reviews.
Yes.
And there was 15 people that were doing reviews on how to use it, how they liked it.
Now, was this Google?
This was YouTube.
Oh, YouTube. Okay. Yeah. So that's to
I
my
said
point.
Normally people would Google something, click on their website, go from there. Me, I go to YouTube and I'll type in, like, you know, again, when I'm trying to maybe buy this product, I want to look and see how people have used it. Same thing I did with when we started wholesaling out of state. I literally, you can see it inside. My most searched thing on YouTube right now is wholesale data.
Yeah.
You don't want to see the Google search.
I know.
Yeah. Private. But it's wholesale data.
Incognito on.
Oh, let's save my life. I just found out about that like a year ago.
Wow.
Yeah. My search history was
again, you're old, you know.
Yeah,
You're
dude,
old.
I'm old. I'm old. Yeah. But yeah, like I'm constantly where I'm finding out about most of my data stuff where we're searching for new types of properties and new little sets that we can get into with sellers. It's all on YouTube.
Yeah.
You know, so
Yeah.
I think that's huge that you should be able to tell your
Well, and if your YouTube algorithm is strong enough, or you just happen to have the right video for the topic, even people that are searching on Google, a lot of times YouTube videos will be the top couple things that pop up if it does relate to the topic. You know, you'll search certain things and best restaurants in Temecula or something. If there's a YouTube video about it, even if you Google it, that YouTube video will pop up because Google owns YouTube. So it's like they're winning either way.
Yeah, they're gonna put everything up there. Anyways.
Yes, yeah. Well, I think this is a good first episode, man.
I think so.
Is there anything you want to hit before we get out? We're coming up on like 40 minutes, so 45.
No.
No? All right.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna do these weekly. Every Friday. We'll probably drop them
11 a.m.
11 a.m. Well, it doesn't matter because people are gonna watch this at a different time.
Yeah. They'll watch it at a different time, but dropping we have to have a distinct day we drop everything too.
Yeah, we'll figure that out.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. All right. Well, we'll see you next week. Thanks for joining us.